Good evening. This is Dr. Rachna Gimawat, Vice Chair of Flow Ahmedabad Chapter and Flow Mentoring Head. I welcome my chairperson, Taruna Patel, my past chairs, my chapter members, my Flow Fraternity Pan India, and audiences on webinar to this Flow Knowledge Lab session on Entrepreneurship series. Before we begin, a small request to mute your microphones and switch off your videos so that we conserve the bandwidth for the webinar. Also, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box below and we will take it up from there. A little bit about Flow Mentoring Cell of FICCI Flow. Flow Mentoring is a national initiative. It is a self-reliant entrepreneurial ecosystem for the Flow members and by the Flow members. It will provide a pan-India mentor base for guidance at every step. You can be a part of some fabulous workshops, collaborations, and excellent training programs. So I request you to sign up for it. And if anyone wishes to volunteer as mentors, please get in touch with us too. Before we begin our webinar, a little bit about it. They say to be a leader, you must utilize and balance both your IQ and EQ. While your IQ helps you strategize, it is your EQ that helps you to be ultra perceptive of your situations around you. Emotional intelligence is widely recognized as a valuable skill that helps improve communication, management, problem solving, and relationships within the workplace. It is a skill which may not always be inherited, or one is not born with it, but can be improved with training and practice. For emotional intelligence to be effective, it has to start within yourself. And this is what we are aiming at our today's webinar. Our speaker is an expert on soft skill and behavioral coach practicing in this domain for the last 20 years. Ms. Sarika Shirsagar is the founder coach of TNT Soft Skills Studio, Pune. She has conducted several training workshops for clients across sectors like IT, ITES, manufacturing, banking, insurance, and education sectors on various modules in communication, management, leadership, customer service, with more than 25 different behavioral skill sets. She specializes in articulating learning theories and techniques in designing, developing, and delivering exponential learning experience and is known for her unique relationship building approach. She is a big-time positivity evangelist. So let us welcome our guest for today, Ms. Sarika Shirsagar. I now invite our chairperson, Ms. Taruna Patel, to present a token of appreciation for our guest.
Good afternoon, Ms. Sarika Shirsagar. So really looking forward to this, learning experience with you this afternoon, and looking forward to it. Meantime, we would like to, gift you, it's called a gift for you, for our guests who take special time and spend an afternoon with us. So this is a gift for you from Madhuban Resort and Spa, the editorial you saw earlier. And so 3 days, it's a 5-star resort in Gujarat, and it's beautiful, 25 acres, and look forward to having you here. And once again, without wasting any more time, we would like you to take this event forward. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Welcome, Sarika. I will not take much time because I'm not an expert on this topic, and I invite you to take this session forward and enlighten us on everything you know about emotional intelligence.
Sure. It's absolutely a pleasure, Rachna. Thank you so much for having me here and giving me this opportunity. And I'm just looking forward to an equally, value addition session with you people here. I've been into corporate just now, as we mentioned, and I've been doing this since quite some time, but this is my first opportunity to do it for an all-women kind of platform across the country. And I just hope that I'm able to add some great value to this through my session today. So yes, to start it, to begin with, when Rachna told me about FICCI Flow, I happened to visit your website, and I simply love the motto that you have, and that is the power to empower, with a mission to, with a mission to promote economic empowerment and equal opportunities among women. So this word empowerment itself, and what a nice concept this is, wherein when women come together as a part of a community, they rise, in totality, not only individually but collectively, and they can, make a huge impact and influence on their confidence level with the kind of entrepreneurship skills and the learning sessions that you've been conducting these ways. So this would really, really go a long way in empowering the personality of a woman. So I would like to start with this word, empowering personality. And I was just thinking that, I, being a personality development trainer, have been doing this since quite some time. As we all know that our personality is built up of certain intrinsic as well as extrinsic factors. So it's a combination of basically these 5 elements. Out of this, the extrinsic is the physical element. And as we all are very conscious about empowering ourselves physically with the kind of, social media information, available everywhere, we know how to look good, how to wear brands, how to, talk, and how to walk. But more than to know how to walk and how to talk, is important to know how to walk the talk. So it's more about the intrinsic personality, and the intrinsic would have the remaining 4 components. Apart from the physical, it is the the spiritual, the social, the intellectual, and finally the emotional personality, which matters the most. So I would like to ask you people a quick question, a close-ended one, a yes or no. So do you believe that to become a powerful personality and to empower others, it's very important to empower ourselves from within? The intrinsic and the 4 components that just now I mentioned are more important than the extrinsic one. Do you believe in this? Yes or no? Yes. Haripriya says definitely. Yes. Anyone else? You could just type it in your inbox. Yes, Shubha Bandari ji saying yes. So yes, we understand. I mean, it's a common knowledge. We see so many women around and so many people around who have a simple living and high thinking kind of life. And there have been really great success in their fields. We can think of Sudha Murthy ji, we can think of someone like Sushma Swaraj, we can think of someone like MS Dhoni, where they have been doing great work, and they have, their personalities have been tagged with the behaviors that they reflect with the intrinsic personality. So my question here is the 4 concepts, the 4 elements of our personality that I mentioned just now: spiritual, intellectual, social, and emotional. Which, according to you, is the toughest one to deal with? Which one, according to you? You could just type in quickly, out of physical, social, spiritual, intellectual, which one do you feel is the toughest one to groom and to deal with? Okay, Gitanjali says emotional. Neelu says, Arachna is saying, for me, it's emotional. Sarita, emotional. Shubha Bhandari ji saying emotional. So we all agree, I suppose, that it's the emotional self which is really, really difficult to tackle with. And that's what brings me to today's session. So as we have been trained since our childhood in our educational institutes and colleges, everywhere we've been trained on how to improve our intelligent quotient and how to be good socially, and how can we improve on our spiritual fronts. The emotional part is a bit still not taken care of. We just surrender to our emotions without really being thoughtful about them, because we feel that the head and the heart are 2 different aspects of a person. But that's not the reality. The reality is somewhere the head and the heart should go hand in hand, so that we are able to leverage them together to build in build an overall powerful personality. So I would just show you a slide here. Can you all see this?
No, Sarika, we're not able to see it.
Okay, I'm just doing a screen share here. Just give me a moment.
Yeah.
Just a moment. Yeah. Now?
Yeah, we can see it, Sarika.
All right. So here, I'm just showing you how we need to leverage our emotional intelligence in crisis situation. Yeah. Can you see it, all of you? The heart and the brain. We need to balance it together. So what I was saying is, now, as most of us, I mean, all of us, I would say, are going through a crisis situation currently, a situation which is difficult to handle and which requires us to take important decisions in times of changing norms, thanks to the COVID-19 all over the world. So the norms have changed. There's a change in sudden and unprecedented change in policies and procedures, systems, rules, and regulations on all the parameters. Be it the institutional parameters, that changes in education, infrastructure, the corporate life, and on our personal levels. There is also a huge change in the way we are dealing our social and cultural lives. For instance, in Maharashtra, we are not able to celebrate Ganesh festival the way we do it every year. So it has certainly taken a toll on our emotional, emotional upheaval as such. So here, what is important, because basically human being is a social animal, and we really cannot live in isolation. And with words like isolation, quarantine, and with words like depression and anxiety and suicide being so prominent these days all over the world, we've been coming across this so often that somewhere it's taking an emotional toll on our emotional health as such. And that was the reason I chose this particular topic, thinking that this is the right time when we need to take an emotional stock of our inventory and try to rediscover and reinvent it, so that we are able to handle this situation more and more effectively. Yeah. So in short, what I mean to say is there are a lot of triggers surrounding us these days. During a normal routine life, our emotions, the kind of emotions that we experience, are also routine. But in these kind of situations, they go for a toss, and we need to make sudden changes, as I said, and these could lead to a lot of emotional hijacking that happens at the subconscious level. So there are a lot of triggers that we experience around us, and here again, I'll just share the screen if you could see. So this is emotional triggers in the crisis situation. This is a slide that I like to show here. These triggers are like stimuli, these could be in the form of people, situations, words, which make us react in a certain way, which we wouldn't do otherwise. They are like live fires which are within us, and suddenly they stimulate us to behave in a certain way, which we might repent later. Yeah, these triggers, of course, there are positive triggers as well, but the human brain is wired in such a way that we tend to lean into negative easily and quickly more than the positive. And that's how we are biased. We are negativity biased towards everything that is negatively triggered for us. So even in our daily routine and daily lives, we go through a lot of these emotional triggers, and if you do not handle them properly, they can really cause a lot of distress and uncomfort in our daily life as such. Even in our relationships, they could create a havoc with our relationships. So this being an all women platform, I would like to take this opportunity to emphasize on this fact that women especially go through a very common trigger. This common trigger is due to the hormonal changes that we face due to those special days, or the special phases of our life, be it pregnancy, be it post-pregnancy, during the monthly menstrual cycle, or maybe the perimenopausal phase that we all go with. These hormonal changes that are happening, we tend to be triggered by every small thing or every small person or situation, that makes it a task, that makes it it's difficult to manage our emotions, particularly in these phases of our life. So on this point here, I would like to ask you people that what could trigger you in your generic life as such? Of course, if you can also share any of your experiences during the COVID-19. Like if I go to my grocery, and if I see a person not wearing the mask, it could trigger me off. Yeah. So such kind of examples, small examples that you feel triggered because of this person or the situation, and you really find it difficult to handle, and you cannot really control your emotions in that case. So any answers to this? I think you need to, have an insight, look into yourself, think over that, and then find out, and then type it down there to let us know what are these things that trigger you during delicate situations.
Yes, Sarika, I can jut in here and tell you that something that really puts me off is like when I expect something to happen and it doesn't happen to the way I want it. It really puts
Yes.
I could
So
say.
yes.
And there
Yes.
are quite a few ones. I can see Nina saying that anyone breaking lines in public places.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Breaking lines, jumping signals.
Yeah. And Shubha is saying uncertainty about the situation right now. When people feel and hush the virus off as if it doesn't exist.
Absolutely. Some are like, yeah, they're not living on this planet. They are like, okay, we'll see it.
Yeah, yeah. There is someone, Pooja is saying even family members, their individual habits, especially due to COVID, having to stay confined within the boundaries of our homes can get so taxing.
True.
Okay.
Hormonal changes, Gitanjali is saying hormonal changes. Yes, absolutely.
Saying not wearing deo. Oh, really? That really puts me off. Yeah, I agree to that one.
Yeah, so it could be as simple as not wearing a deo, not following the traffic norms, or not following the governmental norms during the COVID-19 situation. So for a person like me, when I get up in the morning and when I get a message from my maid saying that I'm not going to come today, I wouldn't be able to come today, could be a trigger, isn't it?
Definitely. That is a trigger for all.
It could be all the more intensive if it's a Monday morning, or if I'm expecting guests at my place. So there are a lot of such things. Yeah, that's the bigger trigger. There are a lot of such triggers, yes, that we undergo in our daily lives, and this is somewhere we need to know how to handle them. Before I tell you about how can we handle these triggers effectively, or how can we handle our emotions effectively, let me tell you one thing. When we face these triggers, there are usually two responses that we get. If we are kind of an introvert person, a shy person, we would prefer not reacting, just taking everything in our stride and forget it, bol ke koi fayda hone wala nahi hai, main nahi bolti hu, that kind of attitude we have. If we are that outspoken kind of an extrovert person, we'll just bombard, we'll explode, we'll react, we'll be angry, irritated, frustrated, and we'll blast out, right? But every time that's not possible. Believe me, that's not possible because the situation is not in our control. The person who's next to you is not your control. So we really cannot exercise our control. And what happens because of that is these emotions remain within our subconscious mind somewhere. So let's understand this important phenomena that I'm going to share with you just now, which is called as, yes, this is called as emotional toxicity. Now, getting triggered with these things is not that dangerous What's more dangerous is being toxic about these emotions. And when do these negative emotions become toxic in ourselves is when we remain them bottled up. We feel that, okay, forget it, but we never forget it. The subconscious mind doesn't forget it. All right, it takes it in, and yeah, so it takes it in. And what happens is it remains there. It doesn't vanish on its own. So we need to treat it. We need to treat it like an unwanted guest. So when we have unwanted guests, what do? We really cannot be, because we live in a country like India where Atiti Devo Bhava. So we do treat that guest with a lot of patience and sympathy, and we treat that guest and we honor him. And that's the same thing that we need to do with these negative emotions that are piled up somewhere in our subconscious mind. What do we need to do? The first thing is we need to bring them at the front in the conscious and become aware of them, that I'm going through this emotion because of this kind of situation. I better deal with it. There's no one else who's going to do that for you, right? Now, the toxicity of that emotion depends upon 2 to 3 factors. One, how intensely do you feel that emotion? Is it just a slight disturbance, or is it that irritation, or is it getting to a level of frustration? Is it depression? Is it anxiety? What is the kind of level? See, if you do not treat them at a proper level, the intensity will keep on growing. And that's how we say, okay, he's going under depression. So they keep on growing. The intensity is very important. And we see to it that we curb them at the outset. And that's the important thing. So the intensity with which we feel those emotions. The second point is the regularity. How often do you feel that? So looking at some person, if you feel really irritated, now how often do you happen to meet that person, and how often you get that trigger from that person? So how often does it happen with you? And last but not the least, how long do you hold that emotion? So you all might have heard about that common example that if you're holding a glass of water or a jug full of water, it's, the weight of water is not important. What's more important is how long do you hold that? Right? So these are 3 important factors that you need to keep in mind. The intensity will depend upon the relationship that you share with that person, the urgency and emergency of that situation. So there are various factors to it. Let's not get into the details. What I'm trying to say here is these are 3 factors that you need to keep in mind and see to it that they do not become toxic. If they remain in your subconscious for a longer duration, they're sure gonna make you immobilized. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but then how do we know that these things are toxic? What are the indicators that show us that this is now going to the level of toxicity?
Yes, very correct. A good question here, Rachna. So I was just coming to this. Now, the indicators are important. It's not that har bar hum apne andar jhankenge or we'll try to find it out, because that's the last thing that we like to do. We keep on judging others, but we never judge ourselves. We don't have that time. We don't need to do that, right? So the common indicators are, there are two types of common indicators that we can look into. One is, of course, the physical indicators. The physical indicators are easy to recognize. The first one could be hair fall, or maybe dark circles under eye, or some kind of allergies, acne, perspiration, certain digestive issues, breathlessness, fatigue. These and some more, these could be the physical indicators which give us an, if it happens once or twice, it's fine. This could happen because we're really tired, we might feel fatigue. But if it's happening for quite a long time, we better look into it. Is it really physical, or do we need to dig deeper? That's the physical indicator. And the physiological or the psychological or the behavioral indicators also, like avoiding to meet people, avoiding social gatherings, not able to concentrate for a long time, not able to put your point forward, being very anxious all the time, kal kya hoga, mera kaise hoga, that kind of worry and that kind of guilt for some kind of past happenings. So these are certain behavioral patterns. So we need to be observant about the pattern in which it happens. And if you feel that it's happening regularly with you, it's time to take the stock of your inventory, of your emotional inventory. So this is something which is very important, and that is about emotional toxicity. Now, after understanding what is emotional toxicity, what I would like to show you next for you on my platter is, this is where we need to be emotionally intelligent. So here a definition by Peter Salovey and John Mayer that I have picked, which is the most apt, which I find here, is emotional intelligence is defined as the ability to monitor one's own and other people's emotions, to discriminate between different emotions and label them appropriately, and to use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior. Now, this is, believe me, really, really deep. At the most, what we do is we do only the first part. We monitor our own and other people's emotions, and that's how we try to maintain our relationships. Here, the second one, to discriminate between different emotions and label them appropriately. So what am I going through? Am I being jealous? You know, have you heard of any person saying that I'm very jealous of him? If you're saying that, to someone, you don't really mean that. And if you don't say that, you mean it actually. So it's that way, you know. If you're really going through jealousy, you would never say that I'm jealous of that person. So these are certain emotions which you don't like to label. We find them making ourselves very weak, and we find ourselves being very vulnerable to these emotions. So these are the kind of people, you know, who do not like to label these emotions. These are the kind of people who always have a victim's mentality. They're always in that victim mode. यार हमारा तो ऐसे ही है, मुश्किल ही है, you know, हमारे साथ ऐसे ही होता है. So these are the kind of people who are always in the victim mode. Why? Because they don't want to find any solution to their problems. And the easiest way what they do is blame it on others and finish it off. So they don't want to take charge of their emotions. That yes, I'm feeling jealous of that person. Why? Because she's better than me. Now I don't want to be as good as her. I don't want to work on becoming better just like her. I don't want to do that. I don't have that courage to appreciate and acknowledge her or congratulate her. And that's the reason that I'm finding it the easiest way, and that is being jealous and being, you know, confined with my own self. So the second thing is very important. You need to be able to label them. And lastly, to use emotional information to guide thinking and your behavior. It has to be reflected. You know, all your emotions need to be reflected through your behavior. Every emotion. So if you congratulate someone, you're showing that behavior. The emotion is of appreciation. And when you show it to others, it somewhere reflects on your own personality, and that makes you powerful. Yeah. So this is how the circle goes. And this is how emotional intelligence is defined to the core. So at this point of time, I'd like to ask the participants about any, before I share my fundas, if you have any funda with which you deal with your emotions intelligently, or you put up yourself in front of others as an emotionally intelligent person, or some other person coming across to you as he's very emotionally intelligent. What are those traits? You know, can you name them? Can you label those traits which you find in an emotionally intelligent person? Again, you need to dig deep in this. I'm okay, you are okay. Wonderful. Vinita More. Patience, listening. Okay, yes, listening is golden side of communication. So these are certain traits, definitely, which shows. So listening requires a lot of patience, and that makes you more emotionally intelligent. Very true. All right, so with this, now I bring you to the next slide, wherein I have tried to cover up the 4 fundamental pillars of emotional intelligence. The first one is self-awareness. The second one is social awareness. Third one is relationship management and self-management. Actually, this is a vicious circle. So, you know, one after the other, everything is related. So the first and the pivotal fact is self-awareness. Now we all need to be aware of ourselves. We are aware of what looks good on us. How can we make our talk more effective? What are the words that I would like to choose to make my talk very effective? But what's very important in self-awareness is dig deep and try and find out about your strengths and your weaknesses and your blind spots. So this is something which is very vital. Now, when I talk about blind spots, let me come to this. Let me ask you people this. Just now I talked about knowing about yourself is about your weaknesses, your strengths, and your blind spots. Now, I'm very sure that you all know about your strengths and weaknesses. Can you tell me about what's the difference between your weaknesses and your blind spots? It's a very common question asked during corporate interviews as well. Difference between knowing your weaknesses and knowing your blind spots. Any idea? Okay, Jugari window could be a good exercise. This is Johari window, Yogita Sethi. Nice attempt, and I just rectify this as a Johari window exercise. Johari window is not for self-awareness. Johari, Johari, which was designed by these two behavioral scientists, Joseph and Harry. And that's how it's clubbed as Johari window, which is used more for relationship management than self-awareness. For self-awareness, an easy and simple exercise is doing SWOT analysis, if you've heard about this. So weaknesses are probably what we are aware about ourselves. Blind spot is maybe which you want to avoid. Is the same. Okay, Niti Mehta says same. It's about how you use it. All right. So yes, ultimately it's all about how we use our emotions. But I'll tell you one basic difference. There's a lot of difference in knowing about your weaknesses and about your blind spots. Your weaknesses are something which you already know, which you're aware of, which you are working on maybe, or you're aware of. Blind spots is something which you're blind about. Okay, which you're totally blind. You do not know that you're going wrong with this. Then how do you know that? How would you know about your blind spots? Tell me. We are not aware. Yes, absolutely. We are not. We are blind about these spots that are there in our personality. How can we make ourselves aware of our blind spots? When others tell us. Vanita, perfect answer. When others tell us. Okay. Now, yes. Now, let me tell you one thing. Others would never tell you unless and until you ask for. Now, how many times would we go and ask people, tell me my weaknesses, tell me my weaknesses? Would we do that? Would we like to do that? Not really, not really. We don't do it unless and until it is really, really quiet. Our children do, very correct. Rupa Patel, very correct. Our children do because they are very honest and they're naive. And they are really our well-wishers. So absolutely. But we're talking about this corporate world, social world, where we where we are dealing with the nuances daily, having transactions and correspondence. In these cases, people really do not come to you, they hesitate. So the best thing is we go to people, and of course, these are your stakeholders whom you trust. So you do not ask any Tom, Dick, and Harry about tell me my blind spots. No, these are those people whom you trust completely for their validation. And you ask them, what do you think? What's going wrong in this? This is called as a constructive feedback. You wouldn't believe that we take a full 2 days session, how to give and receive constructive feedback. It's that difficult in the corporate world particularly. So taking a feedback about our blind spots, because remember one thing, we cannot really be successful in our lives unless and until, we get that nod from our stakeholders. So the stakeholders nod, the stakeholders appreciation and acknowledgement is very vital while knowing our blind spots. And that will be the first step in self-awareness. Now, how does self-awareness helps us in emotional intelligence? I'll tell you. Self-analysis, very correct. So this analysis is particularly important when you have to make important and difficult decisions in your life. when your life is in danger, it's in a catch-22 situation, or there are critical conditions that you're facing and you need to make a decision, you know what, there's something which we call as a gut feeling. All right, so this gut feeling or this intuitive ability that we have comes from self-awareness. You need to continuously keep on working on your self-awareness so that you have a strong intuition about your decisions and you know that you can be quick in problem solving and decision making. So that's the first component for emotional intelligence. Then we move on to the next component, which was about self-management. अब अवेयर तो हो गए, अवेयर हो गए तो उनको मैनेज करना जरूरी है. It's important that we manage them and we keep them in control as such. So yes, when we say that this person is emotionally very strong, now the strong doesn't mean a strong control on our emotions. The strength comes from knowing how to utilize and how to deal with these emotions in a constructive manner. So that's the strength which comes from, and you cannot be really good at controlling your emotions. First and foremost, what you need to know is what are your emotional boosters. What are those things that boost you, that makes you happy, and that would give you the strength to control these emotions in crisis situations. So on this, a quick question to all of you: after knowing our emotional triggers, now can we know about our emotional boosters? What are those things around us or those people around us which makes you really happy? Food, Rupa Patel. Well, Rachna Gaimawati. Family, yes. Now, you know what? Yes. Now, we're talking about weather, food, family, fine. Family is close, food is also close. But what I'm trying to, figure out is something on which we have complete control. Now, let us look for those boosters which are completely in our control.
Sarika, someone has messaged me privately saying my workout is my emotional
Perfect. Yes. So yes, we have a lot of emotional boosters. These could be as simple as food, or the me time that Pujari is talking about. So these could be as simple as keeping a stock of chocolate in your fridge, or ice cream, or music. Music could be therapeutic. I believe that music has a strong boosting capacity. So all of us, if we are listening to this song, Teri Mitti Mein Mil Jawa, which was very much played on 15th of August all over, all over the net. It was played. There were people performing on this, and we listen to this song and we really feel like, okay, I'm ready to die for my nation. That's the impact of music that we have. So music, food, friends, family, yes, these all are boosters. There could be not so simple boosters as well, like meditation, pranayam, the deeper ones, which take some time to show results, but we should be doing those on a regular and consistent basis to get the desired output. Now, one important thing about these boosters that I'd like to tell you here is keep the boosters handy. Keep your emotional boosters handy. They should be within your reach. So whenever you face a trigger, you're able to get those boosters and boost your emotions instantaneously. Now, this looks like a mathematical calculation. It doesn't happen that way, but we should try doing this. We should try doing this on a regular basis, handy and within a reach, and we should try and involve and indulge in them on a regular basis. So that is about self-management. After this, we come to the third cluster of emotional intelligence. Can anyone tell me what was the third one? I'm not going to show you the slide. Do you remember the third cluster, the third component? First one was self-awareness, then self-management, and even for the third one, okay, I think I need to show you the slide. I'll just share screen once again and show it to you once again. Okay, so the third one is social awareness. All right, so we're talking about social awareness. I don't think we need to talk much about it because we all are socially aware, very much socially aware, particularly your platform. The digital media and the digital technology has made it so very easy for all of us to be socially connected. But remember, social awareness is about getting to a situation which is a win-win, which is a collaboration. When we come together socially for any cause, particularly here, like your platform, where you share the values and the vision and the goals, there would be an impact and influence only in the case where it's a win-win for all of the participants who've come together as a part of this community. So that's about social awareness, wherein you're imagining and envisaging a situation which is absolutely devoid of any conflicts. Right? Now, is this possible? Difficult. Yeah, it's very difficult because we have differences of opinions and differences of emotions that we can experience. But then coming to a situation, again, this is a training topic, 5 full days training on how to manage conflicts. That's that difficult. And that's, I mean, let me put it this way, it's not that simple. Right? So we're talking about social awareness with a sense of responsibility, wherein we, with the help of our emotions, make it a collaborative environment and make it a win-win situation for all the community participants. So that is the level of social awareness that we need to reach to. And the final one, now tell me the final one. Anyone with the last one?
Relationship management.
Relationship management. Wonderful. Now with relationship management, I have many ideas. Let me come to Johari window, which we just now discussed. You know what the Johari window says? It says that we operate, our personality operates into 4 different windows, which are based on trust. All right, and which also are based on the relativity with our stakeholders. So some are very close, some are in our formal channels, some with which we are only socially connected on the web. So here, the Johari window says that we should have an open window, large window. Now this open window wherein we are open and receptive about our relationships, where we take their flaws and their weaknesses, everything in our stride, and still we have a very cordial and warm feeling for all our relations here. So this is about building trust through our relationships to get to a level wherein our relationships do not become toxic and we manage them to an extent where there is complete transparency. Remember, I'm using big words. I'm using big words. These cannot be achieved easily. When I talk about trust, when I talk about transparency, when I talk about open and receptive mind, these are things which need a lot of training, facilitating, conditioning, reinventing. This doesn't just happen like this. Okay, now I'm going to be transparent. No, it doesn't happen that way. You can be transparent with your relationships, with your stakeholders, only and only if you have sufficient trust on them. And this needs to be nurtured by being emotionally intelligent. All right. So, so this brings me to the final slide for today, in which I'm going to give you a mantra, which I have devised on how we can be awesome with our emotions. Now, this awesome word is really awesome, and it's been very commonly used. It's become like a cliche everywhere. So someone does a piece of dance or a piece of art, and everyone replies, awesome, awesome. It's very difficult to define awesome. Now, I'm talking about making your emotions awesome. So I've got my own definition for this, which I would like to share with you on the screen immediately. So I'm talking about be awesome with your emotions. So wherein A stands for awaken to your own self, W stands for wire in your brains to focus on the positives, E stands for empathize with self and others, S, stop and sink it in, O is opt to respond and not to react, M is motivate self and others, E is enjoy your unique self. Now, before I proceed with some explanation on these two things, one, Rachna, do we have some time to go deeper into this?
I think.
How much more time?
I think we can.
All right. So I'll just quickly, yes, I'll just quickly get you through this. Now, awaken to your own self. We've already talked about being self-aware, do an introspection. Simple daily tips that I would like to give you here is, given visual impact to whatever is going through in your brains and in your hearts in the form of making a journal and noting down things. So you can note down your triggers, you can note down your boosters, you can note down your affirmations, you can note down, the gratitude, right? So note it down. And that's one reason why I'm keeping this slide in front of you, because it's giving you a visual impact. It's giving you a visual impression, which makes you easy to remember what I'm trying to tell you. And that's how your brain is wired to remember things. So when you note down your triggers, when you note down your boosters, they become concrete in your minds. And that's how you know how can you be aware of them almost in an instant. So simple things, gratitude journal. Just remember 3 W's, what went well. Today, what went well? So whatever went well with your life, just note it down. Or if you talk about the affirmations, just remember 3 P's. So P's, whatever was positive, personal, and in the present moment can be written down. As a part of your journal. So when you write it down, you awaken to your own identities. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're building a reservoir of strong emotions with which you would be able to deal with any kind of negativity that props around or props at any time around you. So that's about awaken to your own self. W is why in your brains to focus on the positives. Believe me, our brains are naturally wired, maybe because of our upbringing or the environment or the people that we're surrounded with, they're naturally wired to lean towards the negative. Now, it requires an effort. It's a task to let the brain learn to be, solution focused and problem focused. So this needs a lot of brain training. And for this, what you can do is you can start living in the present, use mindfulness, start being in the present, enjoying in the present, because what happens is the fleeting moments of joy and happiness that are surrounded by which we are surrounded, they just go as a fancy. We don't even notice them, or even if we notice them, we really do not have the time to savor them. And because of that, our brain is empty. Whenever we require that kind of energy from our emotions, we do not get them. So it's important that we stop, we sink it in, we let it in, we savor it in, and we create a reservoir for ourselves, which could be handy to deal with these kind of negativity. So that is how you wire in your brains. E is empathize, a very, very common word, particularly, this started with when 15, 16 years, or I would say, it was in the year 2000 to be precise, when I started with training the BPO employees for the first time. That time call centers were new, and I used to train people into American accent, and I was learning it simultaneously, and also used to train people into communication skills and customer relationship management. All the clients were US based, and we used to get a lot of inputs from the US clients stating that, okay, tell them to empathize. Believe me, till then I just knew what is sympathy, but I hardly knew what is empathy. Okay, I can ask you this. Tell me this. Yeah.
Sorry, I have an unavoidable situation. I have to leave.
Oh, absolutely okay.
It was unplanned.
Okay.
So please excuse me. It was so interesting. I'm going to look at the video because we have the recording. So
absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rachna.
Okay, you take your time. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
So yeah, quickly, if you can tell me the difference between sympathy and empathy. Anyone? Empathy when we see things from others' perspectives. Bang on, bang on. I don't think we need to get into details. So when we're talking about empathizing with others, we need to see things from others' perspectives, and that's how we manage our relationships. Now, here, let me tell you, let me take you back to the screen. One important aspect that I want to emphasize upon is while we empathize with others, we should also learn to empathize with self. So you know what? We always have an inner critic within ourselves who keeps on telling us just how not good enough we are. So it makes us look always insufficient, you know, and that's the inner critic's job. It's always this, जिसे हम कहते हैं ना, दूसरा मन होता है. So that keeps on criticizing us, and because of that, you know, we just stop enjoying things. So it's important that we learn to be kind and compassionate and gentle and generous with our own selves, as much as we would like to be with our loved ones. So that's an important factor on which I would want to bring your attention to. Stop and sink it in. I've already talked about. Then O is opt to respond and not to react. There's a very thin line between responding and reacting. The difference happens when we are in a hurry to jump on conclusions, when we are hurry, or when we are reading too much between the lines, or where we have preconceived notions, or where we have assumptions. In short, we do not have an open and receptive mind. In these kind of situations, we tend to react. We tend to react more than respond. So the whole idea is stop, listen, empathize, understand, comprehend, and then respond. So it's a long chain, and it takes time. It takes time. We shouldn't be in a hurry to do this, and to make our responses effective. Motivate self and others. Again, we talked about motivating our own selves. This brings me to one very important thing. We cannot motivate others unless and until we are happy with our own selves, unless and until we are self-motivated. So remember to be happy. Now, to be happy, it's important to remember those 4 happy hormones that we are aware of. Generally, that brings us to a point that happiness is more clinical than conditional. And it's a great news. It's a great news that happiness, as we know, we shouldn't make our happiness dependent on our family, friends, situations, rewards, awards. No, it's all within you, and it's more clinical. So work on those 4 hormones. I was planning to ask you about those 4 hormones, but let's not get into the details. I would just suggest at this point of time that you get into details about what are those 4 hormones and how can we develop them, how can we practice those activities which produce all those emotions which are very closely associated with our happiness quotient. Work on those, build on your happiness quotient. Only then you'd be able to motivate yourselves and others as well. And last but not the least, enjoy your unique selves. So enjoying your unique selves is as good as, when I say enjoy your unique identities, I mean stop comparing yourself with others. Because this world is getting so cutthroat, competition everywhere, be it with our kids, our careers, family, everywhere we competing. And because of this cutthroat competition, sometimes we tend to forget our unique identity and all the blessings with which we have endowed upon. So it's very important to enjoy, not take life very seriously, be in the present, and savor to your emotions and celebrate your success and failures altogether to be a powerful personality. So these are a few tips from my side on how we can make our emotions awesome. Now over to you, Rachna.
Thank you, Sarika. Indeed, it lies within ourselves to remain happy and be happy. I just want to open the floor for anyone has some questions or something. We are ready to take up Q&A. So if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box, please. In fact, I have a question for you, Sarika.
Okay.
Yes. One particular thing that how can we celebrate our failures? Like, suggest doing that.
Okay. Right. So just as I said, now we all know how do we celebrate our successes. When we are successful, we want to share it with the whole world. And when we fail at something, the first and the worst thing that we do is we do not share, or we do not want to share it with anyone. So the first thing that we can do to celebrate our success is share it. Share it, of course, with your near and dear ones who matter to you or whose response matter to you. And when we share it, we kind of acknowledge them, we kind of tag them, and we feel that relief, and we need to be really very open about them without being this, without having any hesitancy or any apprehensions or any kind of log kya kahenge kind of attitude. Just keep it all aside and learn to share and acknowledge them. And I would say, in one word, learn to enjoy your perfect imperfections. When you learn to do this, only then you'll be able to celebrate your failures as well.
Sarika, there is one question from Rupa Patel. How does one handle someone having a bad day?
Someone having a
bad day.
Okay, so how does one handle himself or herself when he has a bad day?
How does one handle someone else who's having a bad day?
Okay.
So how do you respond to that situation? Whereas I think like I'm okay, but that other person is not okay. So how do you handle that situation?
So again, it boils down to the emotions. Even if the day is bad, it's important to know how bad that person is feeling. And if that person is feeling bad about that day, I mean, there's something that has gone wrong during that day. So if we could help him or help her out of that situation by offering any kind of help, sometimes even a pat on his back, ya koi nahi, ho jayega, this will pass, we'll deal with it, some kind of words, some kind of messages that we can shower upon that person at the right time, at the right moment, very promptly. I just love those people who are very prompt in offering these kind of responses. Some do it for formality. Yeah, and that's what I mean by you should learn to walk the talk. Some do it for formality, but some are those who initiate and take a lead and offer that kind of assistance and that kind of assurance, which is like very, very reassuring for that person who's having a bad day.
Sometimes I do feel that even being an active listener, just to listen to that person might also help that other person.
Yes.
Active listening does help.
Active listening does help, but again, active listening, while we do active listening, the meaning of active is you also speak.
You speak. Okay.
All right. So when we're doing active listening, we're speaking simultaneously, or we're sharing a message across, and that's the meaning of active listening. So just a nod of your head, yeah, just a slight smile on your face, just a twinkle in your eyes, just a tilt of your neck, which shows that you're actively listening. And those kind of subtle fillers that you use. Really? Oh my God. Is it so? Oh, that's bad. These kind of fillers, which would give, again, that kind of reassurance to that person that you're not only listening, but also empathizing, will make him more comfortable.
So there's someone asking, some negative incidences in life make a groove in your mind. And as you said, we can't understand if they are in long-term troubling your subconscious mind. How to come out of them?
Yes. So our subconscious mind is the most powerful one. It's more powerful than the conscious mind. Yeah. And when we talk about subconscious, it means that it has gone somewhere deeper. So the best thing that we can do is get it on the surface. When we get it on the surface by maybe sharing that kind of incidents or sharing that kind of, person's habits with someone, what we're doing is, while we do it with a solution focused mindset. So most of the times we do it in a format where we are either blaming or cursing or accusing or criticizing. These are simple techniques that all the victim mentality people would do. And that's how they kind of pamper their egos, but that's a simple way. So instead of that, if we could try and discuss these things out, these negativity out with someone who's a stakeholder, with someone whom we trust in a constructive manner, with a solution, with an urge to find out a solution to this. It would really, really help. And that's where I'm saying that we see to it that it doesn't go to a toxicity level. If it goes to that level, it would be really, really dangerous.
Okay, so we have one more question from Usha Poonawala. She's the Senior Vice Chair of Flow Pune chapter. Her question is, how does one cope up with one's unique self with so many internal forces within you and the external forces around you that influence you? How do you cope up with everything that is around, having everything inside and outside? How do you cope up with everything?
Coping up here would mean dealing with your weaknesses, your blind spots, as I said, by being aware of all these. So there are hundreds of things happening around us, and sometimes it really gets too much. You open your mobile phones, you go to Facebook, Insta, WhatsApp, you see, my God, और वो देख के लगता है कि हम तो कुछ भी नहीं कर रहे हैं, इतना सब कुछ हो रहा है हमारे आजू बाजू. So something is very important to get detached from these things. Get detached from all that external, things or external triggers. Those could be positive triggers. You could feel happy after, looking at someone else's Ganpati decoration, someone else's dance and all that. That's good. But if you're feeling imperfect, or if you're feeling that you are not being able to do something, if they're bothering you in some way, it's better to detach. Sometimes it's better to have this kind of vision. Just go with the kind of vision that you have. Look deep. Look wide, introspect, try and find out that how can I make my life better? Can I take charge of my own life? I've made a video on how we can take charge of ourselves, because you know what? Throughout our lives, we are busy in taking charge of everything else than our own selves. We're blaming the government, the politicians, the road conditions, the husbands, the bosses, the in-laws, and all those things. And when we're doing that, what we are doing, we're giving our charge to someone else. So sometimes it's better to dig deeper, introspect, and take charge of your own self so that you're able to handle your own situations in a better way.
I would like to add to that, Sarika, I do it often. Like, I wear an invisible cap which has blinders on two sides, and I just look at what is happening.
True.
Just keep it outside my area of things that are bothering me.
And yes, we need to do it intermittently, maybe not on a regular basis, not possible with the exposure, so much of exposure around us. We need to be aware of what's happening and how we can, balance it out. But at times, intermittently, we need to take a back seat and, as you said, do it with those blindfolds.
Wear your hat, the invisible hat with the blinders,
Right. Good one, yes.
Just one last question. This is from, how do you handle situations when people are very mean to you? How do you do that? How do you confront? How do you manage that situation?
So people being mean is a condition on which we have no control. As I said, there are a few things which are in our control, and we should always focus on those. There's something which is called as a circle of influence and a circle of concern. When people are being mean to us, and again, we're talking about those people on which we do not have any control. Now, who are these people? Who are really not bothered about the relationship that we have with that person? Okay, if it's someone who's really close to us, then of course, we have a control on that person. We try and do not force him to understand our viewpoints or our emotions, but we at least share with him what we are going through and how we would like to be the things to be. Most of the times we wait or we stop at a point where we just tell them, okay, this is how you're making me feel. When you say this is how you're making me feel, again, you're giving your remote control to that person. Emotional intelligence requires you to be completely in charge of your emotions, when first and foremost you learn to choose the words and the sentences properly so that you start feeling and emoting in that way. So in this kind of situation, when people are mean to me, I would say they are not mean. I feel they are mean because I choose to feel in that way. So let me come to this very, very, very difficult component of emotional intelligence, and that is learn to choose your emotions. Throughout our life, we have been busy choosing everything else. We choose the dress we want to wear, the cuisine that we want to savor, the life partner that we want to get married to, the career that we want to choose, except for our parents, we have a choice in everything else.
So beautifully explained.
So here we talk about learning to choose our emotions. So I feel that he is being mean to me because I choose to feel so. Let me change my choice. Let me change my choice. Let me change my words. Let me change. It's automatically gonna reflect with a change in your behavior.
One last question, and this is from Yogita Sethi. She asked, could you elaborate on some more on emotional boosters, like, the ones which you explained before?
Yes, absolutely. So emotional boosters are those simple stimuli which boost our emotions, which makes us feel positive and happy and motivated. So it could be anything and everything on this earth, it could be as simple as we already discussed, our eating habits or our preferences, our priorities, our choices that we make. So it could be as simple as this, or it could be the words that you choose. So emotional boosters like me, I'll tell you one simple incident that happened with me today. I was busy preparing for the seminar or this webinar, and my son came to me telling me that, Mom, see what I have done. In his tab, he was working on his iPad and he did something on his gaming app, and he wanted to show me. Now, you know what? I was really engrossed. You can imagine the kind of emotional upheaval that I was going through before this attending this webinar. So I was so busy and so much into it that when he came to me, I immediately responded to him saying that, I'm so sorry, baby. I really can't look into it. I'm really busy with something. Please, can we see it later? And he said, okay. And when he said, okay, I just gave him a peck on his cheek. And he went away. When he went away, you know what? It boosted my morale. What boosted my morale was a choice of my words, the way I dealt with him, the way I behaved with him, the kind of the peck on his cheek the action that I took, and it was all very normal. It could have happened in the other way as well. It could have happened if I wouldn't, if it, the difference between the response and the reaction that I'm talking about here. If I would have instantaneously reacted, but don't you see I'm so busy? Don't you see it's such an important day for me? Why do you have to come to me? Why can't you go to your papa? These kind of sentences. So the way we deal with these routine situations and circumstances, even those could boost us morally. So remember to be wise and emotionally active and charged when you deal with these daily situations. And then, you know what I did? I stopped, I savored it in. Wow, lovely, what a response. How did I choose to respond to my son? And that was great. I savored it. And because I savored it, I'm able to put it across now because it's gone deep down in my consciousness as a while. And that's something which could boost you forever and ever.
I think, Sarika, this topic is so vast and so deep. I think time is not going to be enough for us to explain and dig deeper. And there'll be so many questions right now popping in my head too, which I'm dying to ask you later probably. But I think we are reaching the end of our session. So I just want our Joint Secretary, Neeti Mehta, to come and announce the winner of the fishbowl.
Yeah, the fishbowl winner today is Seema Honda. Are you there? Congratulations, Seema Honda.
Congratulations, Seema. Neeti, I think we can have the vote of thanks too.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Rachna. Now we come to an end of the lively webinar. Before we wind up, a few words of warmth and gratitude. Thank you all for participating in today's webinar. We hope you all had a nice evening. On behalf of the FICCI Flow Ahmedabad chapter's chairperson, Mrs. Taruna Patel, committee and all members, I, Neeti Mehta, Joint Secretary, personally thank Sarika Srisagar for the valuable and useful session that she shared with us today. Thank you so much, Sarika.
Thank you, thank you. And before we call it an off, I'd just like to say a few lines which I have prepared
Can
on
you complete,
emotions.
Sarika, just a moment.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so
No, no,
sorry.
you're fine. You're fine.
I thought it's done.
Once again, I want to state that we are almost grateful to Sarika to
Okay.
point out and realize our soft skills which are within us while communicating. We thank you for being with us this evening. And my takeaway in her words, जज्बातों से शब्दों की पहचान होती है, जज्बातों से ही रिश्तों में जान होती है, इन्हें वक्त वक्त तराशना जरूरी है दोस्तों, ये जज्बात ही तो है जिन्हें जिंदगी मुश्किल या आसान होती है. See you all again for yet another exciting webinar. Bye-bye and see you soon. Yes.
Yes, I was going to say the same lines that I'd shared with Rachna. So this is done from my side. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. You people have been.
Sarika, I know you as a childhood friend, but this new avatar which I saw today was like mind blowing. I'm so proud, and I'm so proud to call you as my childhood friend. I'm extremely proud today.
Oh my God. Likewise, Rachna, I share the same feelings about you. And this is really a proud feeling to be together on this platform.
Yeah.
This honor. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarika. Thank you all for attending this webinar. I hope you enjoyed.